Hi boys and girls, today we are starting a brand new unit, Unit 10, Lesson 1, Concepts of Area, so please make sure that you are on Unit 10 since we've been hopping back and forth a bit. Before we get into concepts of area, I want to start with the problem of the day, so you're going to do this with me right here. Our problem of the day is going to be rounding, and we are going to round to the nearest 10 and the nearest 100. So the number that I am going to give you, and I'll zoom in a little bit to make sure that you can see, the number that I'm going to give you is 421. 421. Okay, so I want you to round to the nearest 10, and then I want you to round to the nearest 100. So remember, there are multiple ways that you can do this. One of those ways is by drawing a number line. So I'm going to give you a minute to do this. So for those of you who have kind of forgotten, okay, you can take a look at this while the others are working. So the number 421, if I'm rounding to the nearest 10, I'm going to look at my tens place, which is right here. My tens place is 2 tens. So if I were to draw my number line right next to it, I would start with my first 10, which is 2, 20. Not forget about the 400, 420. And what's my next 10 that comes after 20? 30. Don't forget about your hundreds place, 430. So this falls in between, 421 falls in between 420 and 430. Those are my tens. I'm not going to forget about my hundreds. What's right in the middle? 425. Go ahead and place your number that's given. We know that 421 is right here. So what is it closest to? Is it closest to 420 or 430? We know that 421 is just one hop away from 420. It's also before our halfway point. Remember, anything 400's 24 or less, we round down. Okay, 420. So you should have been done with the next one by now, and you could always pause this. Remember, you can pause this and go back. So for our hundreds place, okay, we know that the 100 that we're in now, so I'm going to erase my tens because we're in our hundreds. I'm going to find my hundreds place, which is 400s. So what 100 is that? 400. What's my next 100? What comes after 400? 500. You know what's right in the middle? 450. Okay. Where does 421 fall? And before I even do that, I should know that anything 450 or above, you round up. Anything 444 or below, you round down. Okay? So 421 falls right about here. And I can see, according to this, I'm only 21 hops away from 400. Okay? So 400 is my nearest 100. Okay? So, moving on, our objective for the day is today I will represent the area, that's our new word, so I'm going to put it in caps, of plane shapes using square units. Square units, and we'll talk about what a square unit is in a minute. Okay, plane shapes, remember those aren't three-dimensional, they're flat shapes. So if we look at our vocabulary today, we know that a square unit is a square on a grid, okay, where each side measures 1 unit. And that unit can be anything. They can be 1-inch units or they can be half-an-inch units. So I'll give you an example, and your book is going to ask you to cut these out. Here is a square unit, and this is a 1-inch square unit. Why? Because each side is worth 1 inch. Okay, so this is a square, and all my sides measure a 1-inch square unit. This is a half-inch square unit. You can even see that it's half of an inch, and it is, every single side of my square is 1/2 inch. Okay, so this is a 1-inch square tile, and this is a half-inch square tile. Your square tiles can be any size that you would want them to be. They can be 1/4-inch square tiles, they can be 3/4-inch square tiles, they can be 2-inch square tiles. They're all square units. Okay, you just need to know the size of it. All right, this one doesn't have a size, so we would just call it a square unit. So I'm going to put those to the side for later. The area is the measurement of the surface of a closed plane shape. So with that saying, to find the area, I would want to know how many square units are in this entire surface, all of this, okay? So to make this relatable more to you, if I wanted to find the area of the carpets in my house, I would want to know, if this was my carpet, how many square units my entire carpet is, okay? I would do the same thing if I wanted to know how many tiles. My parents are redoing their driveway, and if they needed to know how many tiles that they needed in their driveway, okay, that would be the area. If you wanted to know how much hardwood floor needed to go in the kitchen that your parents were going to remodel, and they were trying to figure that out, if that's the kitchen floor, obviously it would be bigger. Finding the area would be that entire space of the floor to find out how much hardwood there would be, okay? So if we look down here, it says this rectangle has an area of 12 square units. Well, let's see why. Well, we know that the area is the measurement of the surface of a closed plane shape. So in this case, my closed plane shape has square units. So we're going to count how many of those are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 square units. You have to make sure that you write 12 square units because we're talking about each square unit. Another way that you can write this, and we'll go like, let's pretend that we are talking about a 1-inch square tile, then it could be 12 inches squared. Okay, so this is another way that you can write it, but that's when you know what size tile that you're working with, okay? We know that the surface is that upper layer of something, so this is our entire surface, the whole part that we're working with. And a plane shape is a closed 2-dimensional or flat figure. So it's not a 3-dimensional shape, it's something that's flat, something that can't stand up on its own, okay, like a piece of paper. All right, so moving on. My first question is to find the area of the rectangle using 1-inch square tiles. Okay, so here is, I'm gonna put on a 1-inch square tile for you. Remember, my 1-inch square tile means that each side of my square is 1 inch, okay? It's a 1-inch square unit. So if I were to estimate this, you can kind of see, you would want to think, well, how many square tiles do you think I would fit this way? It's kind of like an array. I'm wondering, because look, we've talked so much about arrays, multiplication. I wonder if we're going to bring multiplication into this. If I have another square about here, okay, let's see, and this comes about here. Oh my gosh, does this look familiar to you? Can you estimate how many square units? How many square inches? Let's think about this. Let's see together. Well, I know that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across, and 1, 2, 3 down. So that's 5 plus 5 plus 5 is 15. Okay. So my estimation is 15, and I'm going to write inches squared because my square units are inches. This always means squared, okay? Let's find out if we're right. So I'm going to actually use my 1-inch tiles, and I'm going to place them down, and I'm going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's see, try and make it as perfect as I can. Math isn't always perfect, though, right? Yeah. 11, 12, 13, 14. Now are we right? 15. Perfect. So 15 inches squared is my area. Now I really wanted to show you guys so you had an idea what this looked like, but remember, an estimation is when you are coming up with an approximation or an an educated guess based off of what you think and based off of what you know. So you wouldn't actually put all of these tiles down, but you might think about, well, what is 1 square inch? How big is that about? Or you might get 1 inch square tile from your math book and put it down and make that educated guess of what you approximately think it is. And then you're gonna actually place these tiles down to find the area, okay? So I'm gonna move those off. My next question